Shares of Chinese EV maker NIO have soared by almost 40% since the first week of April, with one Wall Street analyst convinced NIO will double to $8 by the end of 2025. However, right now NIO is trading at $4 and is still in a long-term downtrend. So, how will NIO turn things around in 2025? And why is one analyst so confident the stock price will double? In this video, I'll look at the recent news around NIO and map out the possible steps that need to occur if price is to reach $8 by the end of 2025. China is the world's largest EV market, with electric and hybrid options representing more than half of all new car sales in the entire country. But this potential opportunity has slowed down by excess competition. According to CNN, the country boasts more than 200 EV makers, leading to a massive oversupply of cars and a race to the bottom in pricing as different companies struggle for market share. Even industry leaders like Tesla are struggling, with March sales in China down 11.5% year over year. A highly competitive environment will likely be even more challenging for smaller companies like NIO because they have lower economies of scale advantages and are less able to absorb losses during a price war. NIO's earnings highlighted the complexities of the EV industry in China. Fourth quarter revenue jumped over 15% year over year to 2.7 billion, but profitability remains out of reach with an operating loss of 826 million. While this operating loss is down 8.9% from the prior year period, it still looks like an unsustainable rate of quarterly cash burn, especially for a company with a market cap of just 9.1 billion. So the only way out of this situation is to scale. NIO will have to sell more cars to take advantage of economies of scale and reduce its fixed costs per unit. And management could achieve this by trying to expand outside of China through new brands and aggressive export strategy. In late 2024, NIO launched its Firefly brand, designed to offer small, higher-end cars and gain a foothold in the European market. It'll compete with rivals like BMW Group's Mini when it becomes available on the continent in the third quarter of this year. Firefly's sole model starts at just under 17,000 in China. However, continued trade uncertainty makes it unclear what pricing will look like in the European Union. But Firefly isn't NIO's only growth engine. According to CEO William Li, the company plans to launch 9 new and refreshed models across 3 brands this year, which will enjoy higher gross margins and potentially help it financially break even by the end of 2025. The new optimism comes after the company showcased its newest brands, Onvo and Firefly, at the 2025 Shanghai Auto Show last week. Its flagship Onvo L90 SUV also made its debut at the show. Both sub-brands are aimed at more of a mass-market EV buyer, offering lower prices without sacrificing many of NIO's leading EV technologies. And since the first week of April, shares in NIO have increased by almost 40%, with Citigroup analyst Jeff Chung believing there's more to come. In a report Chung released last week, the analyst placed NIO on a 30-day positive catalyst watch. Chung even thinks the stock is worth around $8.10 per share, which would represent a more than 100% gain from its current price of around $4. The Shanghai Auto Show impacted analyst Chung's opinion on the stock. He wrote, and I quote, "After the Shanghai Auto Show, we expect NIO to launch new models much earlier than consensus expected. That could mean 10 new models launching by the end of 2025. The analyst envisions that sales could increase by 50% sequentially into the second quarter. He believes deliveries could soar to at least 63,000 units, which would set a new sales record for NIO. And Chung thinks investors should buy NIO stock now, with the stock expected to trend towards its $8 price target as those models launch and upcoming delivery reports show improved data. While this narrative is certainly possible, there was no immediate reaction in the share price following this news. And NIO's growing sales numbers are looking positive. NIO's annual deliveries more than doubled in both 2020 and 2021. However, its deliveries only increased 34% in 2022 and 31% in 2023. And it attributed that slowdown to tougher competition, supply chain disruptions, adverse weather, and China's economic slowdown. Its vehicle margin also dropped from a peak of around 20% in 2021 down to 9.5% in 2023. However, in 2024, NIO's deliveries climbed 39% to just over 221,000 as its vehicle margin rose to 12.3%. And that acceleration was driven by stronger sales of its flagship ET series sedans and on-road SUVs in China, market share gains, and ongoing expansion into Europe. And NIO hasn't posted its full first quarter earnings report yet, or provided any exact guidance for 2025. However, its deliveries grew 44.5% year over year to 65,994 vehicles through to the end of April. And that growth was driven by rapid sales of its core NIO vehicles, its new Ondo L60, which closely resembles Tesla's Model Y, and the initial deliveries of its new Firefly compact cars, which target interest in smaller vehicles like smart cars and BMW's Mini. Its margins are also improving as it sells more of its higher margin premium vehicles. So based on all this data, is NIO stock undervalued right now? For the full year, analysts expect NIO's revenue to rise 39% to 12.5 billion, as it looks to narrow its overall net loss position. With an enterprise value of 10.6 billion, NIO trades at less than 1 times this year's sales. By comparison, Tesla still trades at nearly 9 times this year's sales. Therefore, any good news could force investors to revalue NIO and drive its stock price higher. NIO's potential near-term catalysts include a trade deal between the US and China, the EU replacing its tariffs against Chinese EVs with minimum price limits, and its rumoured plans to sell a controlling stake in NIO Power to the battery giant CATL. When it comes to EV stocks, Chinese players are cheap compared to their US counterparts. With a price to sales ratio of 0.9, NIO shares are dramatically more affordable than unprofitable American EV makers like Rivian Automotive and Lucid Group, which trade for 2.8 and 7.7 times their 12-month sales respectively. This dynamic makes NIO look like an excellent deal, especially if it manages to break even by the end of the year. That said, a company's stock is only worth what other people are willing to pay for it. And only time will tell if NIO management can boost sales and reduce costs. This will entice new investors back into the mix and will help the share price increase towards the prediction of $8. So last week NIO stock was down around about 3%, but it's still up around 29% for the month. So it's still trying to trend upwards, but last week it's taken a slight breather. And if we look in the chart, we can see since the reversal bar and price finding support at $3, it has been trying to trend up until this point 2 weeks ago, where it met resistance at around about $4.43. So in line with my analysis over the last few weeks, it looks as if now it's just pulling back for a few weeks before hopefully finding support, perhaps around this level here of 362, before pushing up once again, looking for that $5 level under the trend line. So in this video, I'll unpack the price action of last week and see whether it can achieve that $5 mark by earnings. Let's take a look. Now, before we start, if you find value in my analysis of NIO stock and other stocks, you may also find value in my trading tips email newsletter. I'll leave a link in the description below. I share the best trading tips that'll help you become a better trader in 30 days. Check it out. So if we check out the daily chart of NIO, we can see since the $3 reversal, price has been trending up nicely. Lots of green bars moving up here, up until the peak right here of 2 weeks ago, the peak of $4.44. And last week, if you look at the individual days, we can see here Monday was a red bar, Tuesday it reversed slightly, indecision on Wednesday, But last week, Thursday and Friday were both green bars with some resistance here around about the $4.10 level. So you can see overall, price has moved up since that significant low, has come back, taken a breather in the last 2 weeks, and Thursday and Friday was trying to move up once again. And on the weekly chart, we can see last week NIO fell by around about 2%. So what we might find in this week's price action is the buyers come back in and price moves up, perhaps to take out this high here of 424, or in a more bullish scenario, the buyers come back in strongly and price exceeds this price peak here of 444. So essentially we've had about 4 weeks up from the significant low up to this peak here of 444, and then last week it has pulled back to this low here of 382. We might have another red bar this week coming up. Perhaps price will move a bit further, maybe down to this point here. And you can see on the chart, I've marked up this key level of the round number $4. You can see in previous weeks, price has found support here on multiple occasions. Now, last week, it did open above $4 and then it closed just below. So I think what we need to see this week is for price to move up above this $4 level to give us confidence that the price movement towards $5 is more likely. If we don't see this next week, then there's higher chance that price might fall away, perhaps down to around about 375. But right now, overall, looking at the price action since this reversal bar here at $3, NIO's looking as if it is trying to make a move up. We've had 1, 2, 3 weeks up. Last week was a down week. So this week could be another red bar, another down week before the buyers come back in and keep the price pushing up towards $5. And checking out the monthly chart of NIO, looking at the big picture, you can see that this level here of around about $3.60, where price hit a low here April 24, also August 24, and more recently in March 25. So this is a key long-term level. Right now, price has reversed in April and closed above the $4 level. Obviously May, we've got a few weeks to go. I think what we want to see is price close above this $4 level for the month of May to get confirmation that the move up to $5 is on. If it closes below this $4 level, then hopefully it will close above this level here of 360. However, if price does break this level here of 360, the likelihood is it's going to move down and test the $3 level again. So we'll watch this closely over the next few weeks to see how price unfolds. Overall, looking at the weekly chart, it does look as if, having found support here and made this new peak, it's now pulling back to find short-term support before the next leg up towards $5. If you find value in my analysis of NIO, please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. What do you think? Do you think price will move up in the next few weeks and hit $5? And what's your thoughts about the Q1 earnings? Thanks for watching.